Hello, good morning. I'd just like to start by offering my condolences to the people of Turkey and the people of Côte d'Ivoire for the terrible loss of life in the terrorist incidents there yesterday. And as you would expect, we stand firmly behind and alongside the people of those countries and the people of all countries as they face and deal with the challenges of terrorism around the world. And we're going to be focusing here today on Russia, on Libya and on Iran. On Russia, we need to be clear about how we manage the EU's relations with Russia in the future. We have to have relationships with Russia, but we can't lose sight of the challenge that Russia represents to our values and to our security. And we have to be robust in making our case and defending our principles, our values, and our borders in Europe. We also need in Syria the Russians to get a grip on their Syrian clients and make sure that they are delivering the obligations that Russia has made on their behalf in the International Syria Support Group and which lie behind the current cessation of hostilities. We expect President Putin, who has backed President Assad with huge amounts of military and political commitment, we expect him to be able to get control of Assad. And at the moment, it doesn't look as though he is in control of Assad. On Iran, we need to make sure that our approach is balanced so that while we exploit the opportunities that come from an opening of Iran and improved relationships between Iran and the West, we also have to be clear that Iran continues to carry out unacceptable behavior, missile testings, aggressive behavior and sponsorship of terrorism around the Gulf, and we shouldn't in any way pull our punches about that kind of behavior. And finally, we'll be talking about Libya with Martin Kobler, the UN Special Representative. We are obviously all very keen to see the full endorsement of the Government of National Accord and its installation in Tripoli as the de facto effective government of Syria. The EU has plans for a big collaboration with the Libyan government once it is properly installed and in place. And we mustn't lose sight of the fact either that Libya remains an important irregular migration route into the European Union. And as well as worrying about the situation in Turkey, we need to think about potential for continued migration flows through Libya. Thank you.
Foreign Secretary, is Boris right to be so critical of Obama and say that he should stay out of the EU referendum campaign?
Well, look, this is the referendum that we pledged to give the British people and that we're now delivering is a referendum for the British people, and it must be the British people that decide. But it is those who are campaigning for an outvote who have talked so much about the Anglosphere, about Britain's alternative possibilities if we were to exit. And I think it's important that we hear from those people in the Anglosphere, not just President Obama, but the leaders of Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and beyond the Anglosphere, Japanese and Chinese leaders. Let's just hear what they actually think about their relations with Britain. Let's just hear how much they actually value Britain's membership of the European Union, just so that the British people are properly informed in this debate and are not deceived by some of the suggestions they're hearing about the welcome that might be awaiting us if we left the EU from our English-speaking partners around the world.
So President Obama's intervention as well.
Secretary, about what exactly are you referring when you are saying that Assad out of control concerning Russia? Are you referring that for the foreign minister of Syria saying that Assad a red line?
I think that the relationship, Russia has put a huge amount into Syria. They've invested in the Syrian regime in a way that we wouldn't necessarily approve of, but we do expect that Russia is able to control its protege. And we do expect that Mr. Putin is able to call up President Assad and tell him to stop the barrel bombing, to stop attacking opposition-held areas during the cessation of hostilities, to comply with the commitments that Russia has solemnly entered into on behalf of its client, the Syrian government. And Mr. Putin needs to get a grip on his protege and make sure he plays by the rules that Russia has agreed to. Thank you.
On Iran, Does the UK support some kind of European Union response to the missile tests?
We will be discussing that today, and I think probably High Representative Mogherini will say something about the outcome of the discussion later on. Thank you.